And with that, we'll welcome you into the Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable. We are live on a Tuesday night, evening, I guess, from the Applebee's in Farmington, just after 6 o'clock. And boy, it's smelling great in here. We're doing good in the neighborhood. Griffin Weinberg and Garrett Davenport with you on the first edition of the playoff edition of the Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable. So regular season is through. District brackets are all settled. We know the paths that each team is going to need to take if they want to win their district championships and fight on through the state tournament to the Show Me Bowl in December. And we'll try to break down the district brackets for you. We're going to recap last Friday's games that we had on regional radio and the non-broadcast games. We'll preview the matchups coming up this weekend. We'll have a special conversation with Judd Nagar and the Valley Catholic Warriors. They'll be coming up later on in the show. But make sure you come out here to Applebee's if you want to enjoy some good food or some specials. They got their spooky sips for $6. I think Amy Cousins, she was telling me that they got a new, it's called a Bay Breeze drink, something with Tito's. So that's something to smooth over your nice Tuesday night. You can always come out and get a Mucho Bahama Mama too. But I can tell you from personal experience, the spooky sips are pretty good. They're not too bad. District playoff time, Garrett. It's always fun when the regular season, it comes to an end, and now there's something a little more to fight for, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Who doesn't love postseason football? I mean, everybody's battling with each other. Every game obviously matters because it's district time, and a lot of great games coming up this week. Some give-me's, but some 4-5 matchups we really, really like on the schedule that can be really competitive. I really like the first week of postseason football. Just feels right.
Yeah, there's just something nice about it. There's going to be some really good matchups. We're going to have some matchups between 1-8 seeds, 2-7 seeds, the 3-6s, the 4-5s. And let's just start with Class 1 District 1. St. Vincent, the only team there. They got a first-round bye. So they'll take on the winner of Charleston and Caruthersville next week. To Class 1 District 2, we got St. Pius and Grandview. We'll have that game on KJF this upcoming Friday. The winner of that game will take on Duchesne next Friday, the 1 seed. And then Crystal City, they're the 8-1 Hornets. It's incredible every time we say it. The 8-1 Hornets, I think that's the best record they've had since 2007, if I was looking it up correctly. They got 10 wins that year. They're the 3 seed. They're taking on Louisiana. Class 2 District 1, we got the Jefferson Blue Jays taking on John Burroughs. The Blue Jays are the 4 seed. John Burroughs is the 5 seed. The winner of that will take on a very talented Central New Madrid County team that is ranked in the top 10 in Class 2. They are currently tied for 9th. Class 3 District 1, got a lot of our area teams in there. Valley Catholic, they got a bye. They'll take on the winner of Kennett and Potosi. And then we got Central and Fredericktown in the 2-7 matchup. And then St. Genevieve and Dexter will be facing off at the bottom of that bracket. In Class 3 District 2, the Herculaneum Black Cats, a little bit of a skid. 2 straight losses for Herky. They're the 3 seed in that district. They would take on Bayless this upcoming Friday. And moving on to Class 4 District 1, again, more of our area teams kind of huddled around in this district. Hillsboro, number 6 team in Class 4. They are the top seed. They got a bye this week. So that leaves Farmington taking on Perryville. That game is at Hale Memorial Stadium on AM 800 KREI. North County will have DeSoto as the 2 seed, and DeSoto is the 7 seed, and Festus, the 3 seed, will take on Sykeston. Windsor in Class 4 District 2, they are currently the 5 seed. They'll take on Gateway. If they were to win that, they'll have to take on St. Mary's. Not a fun matchup ahead of that one. Class 5 District 1, you got the Fox Warriors. They're taking on Poplar Bluff this Friday. The winner of that would take on Jackson. And then Class 6 District 1, the top 3 teams in that district, all 8-1, but Seckman, they are the number 3 seed. They'll take on St. Louis University High School this Friday. And Northwest Cedar Hill, they're the 7 seed. They're taking on Marquette. So we just ran through all that. That's probably a lot of information kind of thrown at you. We'll break down some of the matchups a little bit more as we move on through the show. But for right now, let's just step aside for a break. We'll come back and we'll have the recap from the J98 game of the week last Friday, a fun one between Jefferson and St. Vincent. That's all coming next on your Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable on J98. Welcome back into the Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable on J98, mymoinfo.com, streaming on Twitter and YouTube too. Thanks to the folks. If you're not listening on the radio, you're streaming courtesy of Coles Tractor and Equipment. Don't just follow the herd, lead the herd. We're home of the LS Tractor USA at this beautiful Applebee's in Farmington. Let's get to the game recaps, breaking down the J98 game of the week, as the St. Vincent Indians had a chance to win the I-55 conference outright, but the Jefferson Blue Jays had other plans. Blue Jays quarterback Cole Williams tossed 3 touchdown passes. He scored another on the ground to lead his team to a 46-28 win over the then number 9 ranked St. Vincent Indians in Class 1 for the J98 game of the week. Williams began the scoring on an 18-yard run early in the first quarter.
Williams out of the gun again. He's going to run it to the near side. Now cutting it to the corner. He's got some room inside the 10. 5, touchdown, Jefferson R7. No flags on the play. The Blue Jays strike first here tonight.
And then a St. Vincent fumble gave the Blue Jays the ball back, and then running back Sean Ussery scored from just over 20 yards out.
And we start quarter number 2. Jefferson R7 leading 7-0. 4th and 1 coming up. Williams under center, hands it off. Ussery, he's got some room up the middle, following his blockers. He's got space. He's got a touchdown. Jefferson R7 scores on a 4th and 1 play. 21-yard run. Ussery with the touchdown. St. Vincent now finds themselves down by 2 scores.
The PAT was no good, though, so it's 13-0 Jefferson, and feels like they're pulling away a little bit, but St. Vincent, they got a really good offense, too, and a good quarterback, and Christian Schaff. He scored on a 1-yard run in an attempt to get his team back in the game.
Reitzel out to the right. Now Schaff is going to go under center. He's going to go for the quarterback sneak up the middle. And is he in? Yes, touchdown. Quarterback keeper. Schaff able to score to get St. Vincent on the board with 9:01 to go in the first half.
Jefferson scored 2 more times thanks to a Cole Williams pass to Gavin Theodoro and a 15-yard Sam Stokes run to lead 25-7 at halftime. At St. Vincent, they took the first possession of the second half. They wasted no time scoring. A little trickery, a flea flicker led them into the red zone, and a less than 2-minute drive resulted in a scoring run for Drake Robinson.
Schaff out of the gun again. St. Vincent running quickly. Handoff. Robinson up the middle. He's in. Touchdown. Good blocking up front by St. Vincent. And a statement drive to begin the second half by St. Vincent. Robinson is into the end zone. Touchdown for the Indians. It's a 9-yard run.
And it's an 11-point game at this point after the PAT is in. However, as St. Vincent gets a little closer, Jefferson answered. Cole Williams hit Nate Breeze with a short pass.
And it brings up 4th down and 5 at the 6-yard line. Ussery, the deep man in the backfield. Williams looking to pass, throws it to the near side, up for grabs. It's caught in the end zone. Are you kidding me? Yes, touchdown.
You kidding me?
Nate Breeze for the Jefferson Blue Jays. Unbelievable. That was just a 1-on-1 play. And Breeze outdueled the defender. It was a jump ball. He got up, grabbed it, touchdown, Jefferson.
From there, the Blue Jays and Indians, they traded a couple more scores each, and then Jefferson ran out the clock to upset the state-ranked St. Vincent Indians. Jefferson coach Matt Atlee says it was huge for his guys.
It's hard not to be happy with an outcome like that. You know, we knew they were a good football team. We knew that we do a lot of great things on the offensive side of the football. We kind of told them that we can minimize the big plays and we can kind of make them drive the field. And, you know, eventually we hope that they just kind of run out of time because their offense is so explosive. Coach Casey had such a good game plan on the defensive side. He called a great game over there. Our offensive line came out and got after it. Cole Williams did everything we've asked him to do again this week. So, you know, just so proud of the way our kids are playing.
This Jefferson team, they're 5-4 now at the end of the regular season. Again, the 4th seed in Class 2 District 1. But Garrett, they started the season 1-3, and since then, the defense has always been there, but the offense has really started to pick up. This is one of the most dangerous 5-4 teams I think we have in the area. You saw it firsthand a couple of weeks ago in that St. Genevieve game.
Yeah, they really started to find their stride offensively, and they just found the running game. It seems like their offensive line just turned it up another level with, of course, Sean Ussery. Sam Stokes takes in a lot of rushing yards as well. Those two guys have been phenomenal for Jefferson all season long, getting out to the edge. I mean, they have been really good. And then Cole Williams and that connection that he has with Nate Breeze brings up a completely different dynamic for this Jefferson Blue Jays offense. So, yeah, you look at the beginning of this season for Jefferson, they are not that same team that I think they lost to Fredericktown 6-3.
Yeah,
I
the
don't
very
remember.
first game of the season.
Very first.
It was a long
game of the
time ago.
season.
It's not the same team.
And yeah, it is not the same team whatsoever.
Yeah, I think the way that Cole Williams is developing too into more of a passer. In the middle of the season, he would throw once, maybe twice a game, and he'll get a touchdown off of it. But now he's getting over 130 yards, 3 touchdowns in the air. Like, this is a dangerous squad. They're going to be hosting a playoff game.
And I don't think we talk about Nate Breeze all that much.
We
but
don't.
Nate Breeze has been one heck of a receiver for the Jefferson Blue Jays. I mean, you throw it up double coverage, he just might come down with it. You can risk it for the biscuit if you're throwing it up to Nate Breeze. He has been a dynamic wide receiver, one of the best in the area, in my personal opinion. He's really good out there.
Yeah, this is a good Jefferson team, and they just keep getting better and better as the season goes on. So they're hosting John Burroughs this Friday at Jefferson High School. The winner of that game will face the number 1 ranked in Class 2 District 1 New Madrid County Central team. While St. Vincent, they finished the regular season at 7-2, a heck of a regular season for the Indians. They go 5-1 in conference play, so they will share the title in the I-55 with St. Pius, and the Indians again receive a first-round bye in Class 1 District 1. We'll step aside for a short break. When we return, we'll have the recap from the game on KREI between the Central Rebels as they rolled over the Farmington Knights on their senior night. That's next on your Kohl's Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable on J98. Welcome back to the Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable. We're live on J98, MyMoInfo.com, streaming on Twitter and YouTube. And we're not the only sports going on regional radio this evening. We got some volleyball action on KREI as we speak. The Class 4 District 1 championship between Farmington and St. Pius. Chad Speaker is at Farmington High School for that broadcast. So wouldn't be upset if you wanted to tune that dial to KREI to check the scores over there. That is a very exciting matchup going on right now. But here on J98, we're breaking down the game on KREI last Friday between Central and Farmington. And it was all Rebels. They dominated. They won 48-14. It was Central senior night, and they used the big play in this game. The Rebels' first drive, Kason Murphy found Cannon Harlow for 45 yards for a touchdown.
Now on the Farmington side of the field, Murphy takes a snap, rolls out to his right, fires over the middle, and it is brought down by the Rebels, and it's going to be a touchdown down the right sideline. Cannon Harlow, he goes all the way for a Rebels touchdown.
Then on the next drive, well, I think Kason Murphy, he found one of his guys for a big touchdown, gets called back by a penalty, and then he ended up getting it to Caden Casey in the end zone for another score to make it a 2-touchdown game.
Going from right to left, bringing Bryant in motion. 3-step drop.
Didn't he get Harlow again? And was like called back by a penalty?
No, I actually don't remember. 18-yard pitch and catch on a 3rd and 12. I don't remember. Steps back and delivers a strike to Caden Casey.
So Harlow gets a receiving touchdown, Casey gets a receiving touchdown, and now the Central defense really turns it up from here. The Rebels forced 3 straight turnovers, and they're able to score off all 3. Joe Bryant had a rushing and receiving touchdown, and then senior Hakeem Wagner rushed in to score to put the lead at 35-0 Central. Joe added a 41-yard receiving touchdown right before halftime. And then on the 3rd play of the second half, Kason Murphy threw his 5th touchdown to connect with Cannon Harlow again, this time for 85 yards.
Takes a 3-step drop, pump fakes, fires over the middle to Cannon Harlow. He beats his man. Now it's a foot race to the 20-15-10-5 touchdown. Central on a 3rd and 28. Murphy just goes to the middle to Cannon Harlow, and Harlow does the rest into the end zone for his 2nd touchdown of this ball game.
Well, while Central playmakers, they had a field day. Head coach Corey Schweiss, we could let him give some shine to the defensive line on that side of the ball because they've picked up their play of late.
Defensive line's been pretty good, and you know when they're good, our back end is all state caliber kids, and we've got some linebackers now. We're getting a lot better. We've come a long way since the beginning of the year. I know people probably don't really realize because we were pretty successful early in the year, but I think when people watch us on film now, it's harder to find holes.
Well, Farmington, they added a couple scores at the end. They lost 48-14, but Chase Buchanan and Tatum Tinsley put in some touchdowns in the 3rd and 4th quarter, respectively. For Murphy, 331 yards through the air, 5 touchdowns. Cannon Harlow, 2 catches, 146 yards, and 2 scores. Joe Bryant, a couple receiving touchdowns. As Central improves to 8-1, they'll have Fredericktown in the first round of the Class 3 District 1 tournament, while Farmington will fall to 3-6, and they play Perryville in district play. I think that's a case, Garrett, of just Central being Central. They're a dominant team on both sides of the ball. You saw the offensive attack and what they're capable of doing. And I think they're getting a little healthier, too. You said Jackson Jones. You saw him get on the offensive side of things a little bit.
Yeah, really. Well, the one thing I want to ask is where does Central keep finding these quarterbacks?
Yeah.
And all the bridges. Now, Kason Murphy. Now, we were talking before the game. Kason Murphy had a shot to become a 2,000-yard passer for Central. And, with 331, he could do it next week, depending on, situation. So, Kason Murphy obviously has stepped up into that role and has played a big part for this Central Rebel offense. They got playmakers everywhere around it. Even, Hakeem Wagner played a really good game as the running back. I know he didn't start the entire season as their starting running back, but he had some really big plays. And so offensively, this team is, where they want to be. But like you heard in the cut with head coach Corey Schweiss at the beginning of the season, their defense wasn't really their strongest part of their game, gave up a couple scores here and there, but they have started to tighten it up defensively. And you mentioned Jackson Jones, one of the big guys on that defense that makes a lot of big plays. Tristan Stewart, another guy as well. This is a really team that has really tightened up defensively. So when it comes district time, they're going to be ready to go. And I know they're the number 2. They're eyeing that number 1, our guest today. So they're going to want to get back and face Valley Catholic.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard to stop this Central team. If you're any one of these, Frederick Towns, or if it could end up being a St. Gen, matchup in the district semifinals too. I guess for Farmington, it's a tough stretch that they're on. They've lost now 4 straight games in a row. They had that close loss to Cape Central, another close loss to Poplar Bluff. They were with Festus for a little bit there. And now, the momentum, I don't know if it kind of slides away from Farmington going into the district playoffs, but I don't know. I mean, where are they at this point in the season, I guess? What was your kind of evaluation from their game?
Well, I think when it comes back to the conversation that I had with Eric Krupe before the game is that this is one of those games where you get better from it, even though you look at the final score, you're not happy with what it was. You're probably hoping that it was a little bit more competitive. But again, this is a Farmington team. We said it a lot in the broadcast, said a lot in the week leading up to that game. Their schedule has been super difficult. A lot of great teams in their schedule that they had to face. I mean, you mentioned just a couple right there. So I think at this point in time, you get better from each game, and then you go into Perryville knowing that you've seen a lot of different talent. And now that you're in district time, you're not really surprised with what other teams can bring to the table. So I think with Farmington, you're like, yeah, you didn't have the regular season that you wanted, but you did get to see a lot of different things defensively, offensively, and that can really pay dividends when it comes to district time.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. They played North County the first game of the season. Jackson, of course, goes unexplained. The TDW prep game, that thing is always going to make me laugh in the middle of the year. But yeah, Cape Central, their only losses are to Jackson, Hillsboro, and Central. Poplar Bluff, before playing Hillsboro this past week, they were on a 4-game win streak. Festus, they're always frisky. And then Central. That is a tough freaking schedule. There's not a lot of teams that have a schedule.
That is hard.
Festus may have, a schedule that's been equally as challenging as that throughout the year. So, yeah, the 4-game losing streak, they'll take it into the district playoffs, and they'll have Perryville this upcoming Friday. And we'll have that game for you on AM 800 KREI. We'll step aside for another break here. When we return, we'll break down the Jefferson County game of the week from last Friday as the Crystal City Hornets, they took down the Herculaneum Blackcats for their 8th win of the season. We'll have that breakdown for you next on the Kohl's Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable on J98.
Kohl's Tractor. Right now, 1455.
We're back from the Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable, live on J98, mymoinfo.com, and streaming on Twitter and YouTube. Griffin Weinberg and Garrett Davenport with you, enjoying all the company we have here on a Tuesday night at Applebee's. Always love coming back here. We'll have our final roundtable next Tuesday, and that is going to be an exciting show, I think. We'll have some more, talk about the districts and what's to come, and I think we're going to have some good matchups next week too, but we'll have some good matchups this week, and we had some good matchups last week. Over to the Jefferson County game of the week, where the Crystal City Hornets, they used a variety of ways to score, and they propelled themselves to a 32-14 win over the Herculaneum Black Cats. So the Hornets, they're 8-1 on the year. Herky, they dropped their second straight game to 5-4. But let's go back to the very beginning of the game. The Hornets get on the scoreboard on the very first play with a 58-yard touchdown run by Caden Raftery.
The Hornets run the ball right off the bat, and they are going to get on the scoreboard early from the 42-yard line. And it's a touchdown for the Hornets. They broke it out over the left side. And scampering down the sideline, the Hornets get into the end zone just like that at 11:41 to play in the first quarter.
Then the Black Cats, they come back. They score on a 19-yard pass play to Luke Lyles to close out the second quarter to make it 20-6, Crystal City leading at halftime.
Here's a snap back to Deering. He looks to his left, out across the middle, touchdown! It's a touchdown brought in by Herculaneum right in the middle of the end zone. Deering looked to his left, had a man open in the middle, and he put it right in there, and Herculaneum gets on the board with only 5 seconds to play in the half. Luke Lyles hauls it in for Herculaneum.
So Herculaneum made it 20-14 going into that third quarter, but then eventually Crystal City, they pull away with their defense in the second half. 2 pick sixes, one by Evan Wolf, the other by Camden Bolton on the last play of the game. Brings us to the final of 32-14, Crystal City over Herculaneum, while Bolton also had a 99-yard kickoff return midway through the fourth quarter. Crystal City coach Dan Fox, safe to say he was elated with the win.
This aftermath on the field right now shows you how much this community loves their football team. I'm very proud of our kids. We set the expectations really high when I first got hired 5 years ago. I mean, I'm proud right now. I mean, we stepped up to a big Class 3 opponent, somebody a little bit further north of us that, maybe thought that they were going to come in and show us and lean on us being a bigger school. And we fought back, and that's what our kids are about. They're resilient.
Class 1 Herculaneum beating Class 1 Crystal City beating Class 3 Herculaneum. And for the Hornets, it's their best record since 2007 when they went 10-2. I mean, Garrett, I remember when we had them on the roundtable, I think it was after they went 3-0, maybe it was 4-0. It felt like a long time ago, but at that point we're like, wow, this is, they tied their wins from last year, most wins in a decade. This is a successful season so far, and now they just keep beating expectations. Their only loss was against Russellville, and that play was the game was decided on the final play of the game when Crystal City nearly had a touchdown, but apparently they were stopped short of the goal line, and now they're 8-1, and they're the number 3 seed in Class 1 District 2. I mean, it feels miraculous almost, this turnaround that they were able to have, and it's a heck of a story that's going to keep going on for them.
I mean, it's just awesome for them, and you're right. They probably could be 9-0 right now, depending if we had a review in high school football, but we're not going to get that anytime soon. But either way, though, yeah, exactly. That'll just make games super, super long. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's just been a complete turnaround. And again, you could kind of tell when I went to that camp for Crystal City. I did it 2 years in a row. It was a different vibe each and every single time. Mm-hmm. And the first time, the spirits were high, but they kind of knew what they were. But when I went back this past summer, things were electric. People were excited to be there, and they knew that they had a great team. Did we really expect 8-1? I don't know, but they knew that they had great talent on both sides of the football, and it shows this year that they were able to put it all together. They found what they were able to do, and it worked. And hey, now they're 8-1. It's awesome for them. I love it for them.
Yeah, I know it's huge, and they're going to be hosting a playoff game this Friday. So they are the 3 seed. They'll be hosting 6th seeded Louisiana this Friday night at 7:00. And if they win that game, they would face the winner of Brentwood and Van Far, and Brentwood is the 2 seed in that district. You also have St. Pius and Grandview. St. Pius the 4, Grandview the 5 that are facing off this Friday. I guess for Herculaneum, this is an interesting situation going into the district playoffs. So Blaine Boss, he was ejected from the Perryville game when they lost 22-20. So he did not coach in this game against Crystal City, but he'll be back for their district matchup as Herculaneum in Class 3 District 2. They're going to have a home playoff game of their own against Bayless. And Bayless has lost to a few teams in our area. They're in the I-55 conference as well. But, I think it may be a big turnaround spot that Herculaneum could have here because, they got all the talent. They got the Deering, they got Lucas Barr, they got Mikey Maloney. It just feels weird to see them at this point having 2 straight losses going into districts because this is still a really good team.
Yeah, this is a really good team. Offensively, we know how good their defense has been all season long. I think this is one of the few matchups where they have given up a lot of points, but they are solid on both sides of the football. Again, I've been saying it really all season long. It's putting together 4 quarters of football they have struggled with all season long. And I think another thing, these last 2 games, not having their head coach can really, really throw you off.
Yeah.
Maybe 1.5, but still having your coach back, getting things back to normal will be huge for this team heading into that week against Bayless. And Bayless has struggled this season, so Herculaneum could pick up a big victory right there and just really get things starting to go as they head in deeper into the playoffs.
Yeah, a home playoff game for them too. A lot of these teams in our area, they're going to be having home playoff games this Friday too. And Herculaneum will go into district play with a 5-3 record, and again, Crystal City 8-1. They have the 3 seed in Class 1 District 2. We'll step aside for another break here. We'll come back and we'll give you the brief breakdowns of the other matchups that happened last Friday night to close out the regular seasons. That's all coming next on the Kohl's Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable on J98. Welcome back to the Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable. We're live on J98 from the Applebee's in Farmington and streaming online at mymoinfo.com and streaming on Twitter and YouTube. Again, we got some volleyball action on AM 800 KREI, the Class 4 District 1 Championship between Farmington and St. Pius. And St. Pius has taken the first set 25-20. They are the 2 seed. Farmington is the 1 seed. That match being played at Farmington High School. If you missed the coverage of volleyball last night that we had, the match between St. Pius and Windsor was awesome. St. Pius was down 2-0. They come back and they win 3-2. They win this 5th set 16-14. It was great. You can find the recap of that at mymoinfo.com. And it looks like this championship match is setting up to be an electric one. So won't be upset if you want to join KREI for a little bit and listen to Chad Speaker on the call over there. And we can keep giving you scoring updates once we receive them. But let's break down some football from last Friday. We just broke down the broadcast games, and now we'll have the other matchups. And one of my most anticipated games last Friday, I think this one lived up to the hype too, but St. Pius, they beat Perryville 27-18. Head coach Dan Oliver for the Lancers, he talks about the turning point in that game.
We were in a scrimmage formation, doing a kick, a punt, and got blocked. And then that just kind of opened the door for them. And you know, they did a good job. It was a bad snap, and Andrews didn't quite get it and kind of stepped outside of protection, and they blocked it. And you know, that just kind of started sliding down the hill then at that point. But, you know, the boys did a good job. They regained their composure and got back into it.
Should mention that Perryville, they led 18-14 in that game, and then St. Pius came back in the second half, Garrett, to take that win.
Oh, yeah, no, this we talked a lot about Jefferson being a different team from the beginning of the season to now at this point of the season. I think Perryville is right there with them. I think their record doesn't indicate the amount of improvement that they've shown throughout the season. But if you looked at them at the beginning of the season, they were only scoring about 7 points per game. They have completely changed that offense. They are starting to get into the end zone, and I'm really liking that Class 4 District 1 matchup between Perryville and Farmington. We'll get to that later, but I'm starting to really like that as well. And St. Pius, again, just the responding to adversity, find themselves down and able to come back and go win that game in the second half. I mean, this is a really good St. Pius defense, and seeing their offense start to turn on a little bit. And I'm not too sure if they have their starting quarterback, James Smith, back. I'm not too sure.
No, it was Urban playing again.
Okay, well, either way, you know, still being able to put out points without their quarterback being there, that's really huge for this team going forward. And if they get James Smith back by the time they, you know, get deeper into the playoffs, it'll be big for them going forward.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to take away for Perryville, you know, from this loss. Of course, you want to win, but heck, they led in the second half, and Ben Hotop, he had a really good game, 109 yards and a touchdown, but the St. Pius, you know, they ran the heck out of the ball. Nolan Sipple, 264 yards and a couple of scores. Kind of ugly in the turnover department, 5 for each team in this game. So 10 total turnovers there. But St. Pius, they're 7-2, 4 seed in Class 1 District 2, while Perryville, again, they will be taking on Farmington this Friday. How about the Grandview Eagles turning things around? After a 6-game skid, they beat Chaffee 26-21, while head coach Jason Kimenow says it was a close game all night.
It was kind of back and forth. No real big pull by either of us at any time. Kind of stayed within that one touchdown range the whole night. I couldn't say the timestamp on when we scored our last touchdown, but it was in the fourth. But then from there, they kind of drove down. We drove back down, and they had a chance late to kind of go back down, and our defense held firm and made a big stop.
Yeah, again, a 6-game losing streak broken here by Grandview. And I think that's good to see, because whenever we have Coach Kimenow call into the End Zone show, which, you know, the young guys are there, or we don't have the numbers right now, we're building for the future, but it's not necessarily right now, they get a big win and they take some momentum into the district playoffs. They're 3-6. They are the 5th seed in Class 1 District 2. Nashmore, 168 yards. Jacob Walker near the century mark. And Austin Blankenship, 16 tackles in a fumble recovery for the Eagles. How about the St. Genevieve Dragons? They're starting to find their groove at the end of the season, too. They beat Kelly 42-14, while St. Gen head coach Jay Pope says the Dragons, they are still improving.
We're getting pieces here and there, but, you know, we were also missing a few other guys that we wish we could have had. We got Gabe Willett back on defense for us this week, and he had a heck of a game after missing that R7 game last week. So, yeah, you know, I feel like we're almost back to our identity of who we were week 1, and obviously all summer. So yeah, it's definitely giving us pieces to build on, and the offense is finding its rhythm here down the stretch.
It's a game that the Dragons trailed 7-0 early on, but of course they come back for the victory. Aiden Boyer, he seems like he's so much more comfortable at this stage of the season. 4 touchdowns, 2 passing, 2 rushing. Aiden Butcher is back, 217 yards on the ground, a couple of scores. Wyatt Springcamper, 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. It's a St. Genevieve team that after, their 2-game set against Valley and Central, they're starting to find their groove, and they finished the regular season 7-2. They're the 3rd seed in Class 3 District 1. Valley Catholic will be joined by the folks from the Warriors a little bit later on in the show, coming up shortly, but they beat Kennett this past Friday, 46-16. Well, Coach Judd Naggery said that the Warriors, they had some obstacles to overcome in this one.
Oh, it was kind of a weird evening. We had a few kids, that weren't exactly feeling very good during the day. And then, before the game, Bryce was a game time decision, and we decided not to play him. So we kind of had to move some things around without Bryce. And then, we lost a couple of our tight ends then as well. So we were kind of out of tight ends and kind of had to do running back by a committee.
Hey, this next cut with Whitener, the intro should be the lead went back and forth, not just went back.
You do some really good things.
Okay. Yeah, and eventually they win. Of course, Valley does. They got a deep roster, a lot of guys with experience there. Alex Viock stepped up in a big way, couple rushing scores. Okenfoos did his thing on the defensive side of the ball, 3 tackles for loss. Chase Fowler, 165 yards through the air and 4 touchdowns, all of them to Sam Jury. Jury had 136 yards receiving. So Valley, 9-0, number 2 in Class 3. They get a first-round bye in Class 3 District 1. Staying in the same district, Fredericktown, they'll take some momentum into the district playoffs with a 26-24 win over East Prairie. Black Cats head coach Jake Whitener says the lead went back and forth until the very end.
Our defense, second half, we only gave up 1 touchdown. We were losing 18-12 at halftime. It winds up actually being 26-24 with us coming out on top. We had a quarterback in this week that hasn't played quarterback at all this season. And Easton Wood, he's a sophomore, and he put together a really good 2-minute drill. We got a pass interference on a crucial down that set us up close to the goal line. And, he carried it in for a late touchdown and also the 2-point conversion and put us up by 2.
A lot like Grandview in the way that, usually the conversations on End Zone with Jake Whitener goes, hey, what you guys do? Do you guys fight? What's the morale of the team in some sorts? But they've been in some close games. They had that 6-3 win over Jefferson to start the season. Trailed DeSoto 14-0 at halftime on homecoming. They come back to win 21-14, and they stay in the fight in this game here. So Fredericktown finishes the regular season 3-6. They're the 7th seed in Class 3 District 1. And Potosi, they led Cape Central 27-20 in that game. They led by a couple scores actually at one point earlier, but they fall to the Cape Central Tigers 34-27. Noah Walton, freshman running back, had a good game. So did Luke Brabham, and Thomas Lambing, a freshman receiver, had a touchdown. 12 tackles each for Zane West, JT Cross, and Nate Robinson. As Potosi, their schedule is pretty tough too. They're 3-6, 5th in Class 3 District 1. Moving on to Class 4 District 2, the Windsor Owls. They beat Cuba 44-6 as Windsor head coach Jeff Funston, he talks about the win.
Our defense flew around the football field. We were swarming all night long, and it was great to see. It's something that we have been building towards all year long, and finally getting an opportunity to really see it in action here. Great way to finish out the regular season, as you said. We had a goal line stand early in the game that really kind of kept it about a 21-6 score at the time, and just to see them fly around the football field was nice to see.
252 rushing yards for Jordan Foster, 2 passing touchdowns for Anthony Fletcher as Windsor improves to 4-5. They are the 5 seed in Class 4 District 2, Garrett.
I just want to say, and Jeff Funston told me Jordan Foster became an 1,000-yard rusher after this game. So that's awesome for him. I don't know the last time Windsor had an 1,000-yard rusher. So that's pretty awesome for them to have that, and great for Jordan Foster to get that number.
Yeah, got to shout him out. The kid's had some big numbers throughout the whole season, so he crosses the 1,000 mark. That's always good to see, and Windsor will take some momentum into the district playoffs, as will the Hillsboro Hawks. They bounce back from their only loss of the season, to beat Poplar Bluff 48-14. Possession was the name of the game for the Hawks. They held the ball for over 30 minutes as Peyton Brown and Jackson Patterson combined for 232 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns. Hillsboro has a first-round bye in Class 4 District 1. The DeSoto Dragons, they fell to Orchard Farm 35-14. They fall to 1-8. They are the 7th seed in Class 4 District 1. But freshman running back Eli Tebow, he's up to over 700 yards rushing on the season with 4 scores, averaging like over 5 yards a carry. So wanted to give him a shout out here. Festus, they fall to Jackson 52-0. That's one of those games where it is what it is.
Yeah, it's like one of those games where you just decide to rest everybody at that point. I mean,
and I don't know what the final stats were from that game, but even AJ Ofadale, he mentioned it to Chad after Festus beat Farmington, kind of like looking ahead, looking past Jackson, in a way, just to the district playoffs. And it's like, there's not much that you can do there. Jackson's talented. So Festus is 4-5. They have the 3 seed in Class 4 District 1. Let's move to Class 6 District 1, where Seckman beats Webster Groves on senior night. 48-6 is the final score. Head coach Nick Baer says it was an emotional senior night.
I believe like 26 or 27 of those guys played all 4 years. They're my first group. They were my first year as head coach. These guys were freshmen, and it was a little harder than I thought it would be to watch them walk across the field tonight. But we talked to these guys before the game about how when you're on this team, you're part of something bigger than yourself. And section football, when you're here, it's your job to make it better. And these guys have changed section football more than any group that's came through before.
And they're outright Suburban Orange Conference champs for the 2nd straight year. The weekly ruble numbers, 8 carries for 225 yards, 4 touchdowns. Yeah, 8 carries, 225.
How many yards per
touchdowns.
carry is that?
The math is easy. 225 divided by 8. I can't do that in my head. I'm not going to look it up on my phone right now.
It's a lot. It's a lot of yards per carry.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But, the whole team was freaking nuts. I think they averaged over 10 yards a carry. The Seckman Jaguars ran it 23 times for 397 yards and 7 touchdowns. So it's not just Cole Rubel. Everyone really did their part to contribute. On the defensive side, Jaden Ashlock for the Jaguars, 13 total tackles and a fumble recovery, as Seckman improves to 8-1, 3rd in Class 6 District 1. The Fox Warriors, they fall to Ladue 28-7. Freshman quarterback Cameron Underwood carried it 16 times for 125 yards and a touchdown, as Fox drops to 2-7 and 5th in Class 5 District 1. And the Northwest Lions, still in search of that first win. They fell to Melville in a close matchup. 13-10 was the final score. Got to give a shout-out to senior Robbie Brandt on the defense for the Lions. 19 tackles. That's a crazy number for him. So Northwest, they're 0-9, and they are the 7th seed in Class 6 District 1. And again, we had a game last Thursday, North County and Sullivan. The Raiders fall to Sullivan 34-13. They finished the regular season 7-2 with the 2nd seed in Class 4 District 1. The big winners portion of it, there's a couple that are in my head. There's one that I feel like you need to say, Garrett. I'm anticipating that you are, so I guess we'll figure that out. But my big winner, one of them, Fredericktown, and the other one, Grandview. I mentioned it, having the conversations with Coach Jason Kimenow and Jake Whitener, on the End Zone show. It's always, again, just like, hey, what'd you guys do? Was there any progress? What's the, vibe moving ahead to next week? But they, break some skids, and both of those teams go into the district playoffs with a lot of momentum. And I think that's really important too. Now, it's going to be tough matchups for Fredericktown. They're going to be taking on the Central Rebels. Grandview is going to be taking on St. Pius. It's not going to be easy, but at least they have, a little bit of a smile on their face as they move into these next games. So I like Fredericktown, and I like Grandview as my big winners. How about yourself, Garrett?
There's a lot of big winners this week. There's a lot to choose from. Of course, I always like to go with the Crystal City Hornets.
That's what I was thinking.
Huge. That's obviously just a huge win to finish off the regular season at 8-1, the first time in a long time that this Crystal City Hornets program has put themselves in a position to be a top 3 seed in the district. But besides Crystal City, because we know I love to go there, I think St. Pius, even though, they finished the season at 7-2 and they beat Perryville, but as 27-18 game, that's a tough Perryville team. They've gotten a lot better, and you share the I-55 conference championship. You had something happen there. You had to win that game to at least get a share, and then you do.
Yeah.
So that's, St. Pius, another big winner, and I think, especially doing that without their starting quarterback, I think that's just huge for them. I think they're another big winner this week.
Yeah, and I think the losing team that is also somewhat of a winner, Perryville. We already mentioned it, but I think that's it. If there's any way to have a good loss and some, they can carry some stuff into district play, I like what Perryville brings to the table.
And if we're talking good losses, I think Potosi's loss to Cape Central's a good one. They're leading in that game, and it's a
tough loss,
but it's still a good loss that you see offense going.
Yeah, because I think Potosi, they competed, they put together nearly a complete game. So yeah, it's not going to be easy for Potosi. They're taking on Kennett, but those are the big winner segments, and that's going to send us to a break. And when we return, we're going to have a fun conversation. We got the Valley Catholic Warriors joining us here on the round table. I don't think they've ever been on the show, so we got the team captains, head coach Judd Nagger, and we'll have that conversation next on the Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable here on J98. Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable here on J98 The Boot. We got a conversation coming up with the Valley Catholic Warriors, but first let's pause 10 seconds for station identification.
KTJ.
That's how you do radio.
Crystal City, St. Genevieve. J98 The Boot.
All right, we're rolling here from the Applebee's in Farmington, and now we're joined by... All right, we're rolling here from the Applebee's in Farmington, and now we're joined by special guest, the Valley Catholic Warriors on the Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable. Griffin Weinberg here hosting with you, and head coach Judd Nagger. We got Sam Jury, Bryce Giesler, Noah Elbert, Chase Fallert, all senior captains joining us here. Fellas, appreciate you making the drive over here. I know it's a little bit of a hike on a Tuesday night, and we're excited for this conversation. So glad that you can eat your food, and now we can talk a little football. And I guess, Coach, let's just start with the Kennett game from this past Friday. When we were talking on the End Zone program, you mentioned that it was a strange night in terms of how you guys had to come into that game with the personnel that you had available. Things kind of, coming up better, I guess, sickness or whatever was going on there. Are you guys getting a little more healthy over the last few days?
Yeah, we seem like we're getting on the other side of it. It was, like you said, it was, just kind of a weird evening. Actually started off early in the day with some guys being a little sick and having to make a few, adjustments. And then, once we got down there, we had some more issues, kind of present themselves. But, the guys did a great job, making some adjustments and, playing the hand we were dealt.
Yeah, and I know that you can make the adjustments on the fly. You got the experience of doing that in a game, but I asked you about it on End Zone too. Just the fact that you guys do stay pretty well prepared during the week, and a lot of the guys that don't start, they're able to get a lot of reps throughout the season just by way of the scores of the games that you're in. So how helpful was it knowing it that some of the guys who kind of stepped up in that game, they already have that varsity experience?
But, that was really good for them to, get an opportunity to, get out there and, kind of get paid for some of their hard work. And, but it's just kind of weird because of the, how things all kind of played out. We feel like we got a lot of depth out of the tight end position, and we kind of, we had to move Timmy back to play running back. So that was, we were down one of those tight ends, and then we had one more get hurt, and then we had one more who couldn't even play at all. So, we were kind of down to our fourth guy there, but he did a good job as well. So,
yeah, it's all about guys stepping up and doing their thing, I guess. So Noah, just being on the offensive line too. I don't know, when you are missing a tight end or a guy like a Cohen Gibbs or even Harry Oliver when they're out there, they get those consistent reps with the starting squad. Does that kind of change anything with the guys, with the way that you block or any communication stuff?
No, it doesn't really change like anything that much. I mean, we all communicate very well, and we just try to do our best with what we have on the field.
Yeah, and then I know, Bryce, you didn't play in that game, so did you travel? Were you with the team?
Yeah, I was on the sidelines. I was warming up before the game to see if I could go, but I just wasn't feeling good enough.
Yeah, sure. So I know that Alex Viock steps up, and he's ran the ball a decent amount this year too. And Timmy, he's averaging over 12 yards a carry, so he's not too shabby himself. But with a guy, I guess, like an Alex Viock stepping up, getting some more carries, or do you help coach him any bit? Like on the sideline, or what is kind of your role when you're standing there?
Yeah, I just make sure they're doing the right things, and if they have any questions, just letting them know that they can always come to me and ask. And it was really fun just sitting on the sideline and cheering them and watching them have the same success in our system as I would have.
Yeah. So, I mean, Chase, being the quarterback for this team, when some of your key guys are missing and, backfield mate, when you got Bryce, who's not going to be out there with you, does that change, your preparation, I guess, in the game or the mindset that you take into it?
No, it definitely doesn't change anything. I mean, it's the same concept of football, just different guy out there next to you.
I know it's always, the answer. It's like it's kind of what's given to you. You take what the defense kind of gives you, and it feels like you just, you trust yourself and you trust everyone that's pretty much out there on the field. Is that, kind of a fair thing to say?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And you trust Sam, obviously a lot too. I know you had a heck of a game on Friday. The 4 touchdowns, 136 yards is what you got it down for. Did you eat something nice for breakfast that day? What was kind of going through your mind in that one?
I think we kind of all knew going into the game that we all had to step up and do a little extra than we kind of thought beforehand. And I think everyone did a great job of stepping up and doing a little more than they thought they were going to have to.
Yeah, and, going back to the guys kind of stepping up, I go back to the Central game where I think you had 1 catch in that one. You didn't touch the ball much, but you guys come away with the win, and other guys are contributing in those departments. So when you're not, contributing on the offensive side of the ball or getting those touches, what's kind of going through your mind, or, how nice is it seeing some of those other guys on the field being able to step up and make some big plays?
I mean, it's awesome to see anyone make a big play. And if we're having success, that doesn't really matter who's getting the ball. As long as people are making plays, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's a selfless squad that you got here, Coach. And, the game against Kennett, since you beat them, you set yourselves up to the point where you could be playing them now in a couple of weeks. Did you I'm assuming you probably didn't throw everything that you had at Kennett. You're not going to show them all of your cards, but what was kind of the thought going into the game, knowing that you could be playing them in a couple more weeks now?
We just wanted to call the best play for, whatever the situation, really called for, with Bryce going down and, some of the tight ends going down, it really kind of made us call some things that we didn't really think we were going to call. So, looking back over the game plan today, we still probably have 75% of it left, just because, once we started to lose some folks, we kind of lost a lot of our, personnel packages, and we kind of had to be just a little bit vanilla, and the way they play defense, they kind of give you some things, and it's kind of a feast or famine. If you're able to execute, you can score fairly quickly, but if you can't execute, you're going to be in trouble just because they play extremely aggressive over on that side of the ball. But we certainly still have some stuff left.
Yeah, so enough about the game last Friday. You guys are going to have this Friday off. Do you know what you're going to be doing? Would you go out to another game, or is it just kind of more game prep for whatever comes next week?
Oh, it's kind of up to the kids. They kind of do whatever they want. We had a short day today. We'll have a short day tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be off on a Thursday, and then we'll have a short day on Friday. I'm going to see if I can maybe get my kids out in the woods to see if they want to shoot a deer, and we'll see if they're ready for that. We're not 100% sure if they are or not. So, we'll see. I imagine, probably all of our guys, like, I guess, what do you got to be 16 or under or something? So,
yeah,
I would imagine, some of those guys are going to find the woods over the weekend.
Yeah, I guess, it's probably nice to have a weekend off. You're probably not too used to it during the football season. I guess, Chase, would you rather have a game, or do you kind of, enjoy the fact, like, you get a Friday off?
Well, I think it's a good time for a Friday off. Gives us all a break, but it's always fun to have a game.
Yeah, I'm sure, you guys get to recalibrate, before your district playoffs start. So I guess just kind of, this season as a whole, it's another undefeated season for Valley. You guys have had a lot of those regular seasons where it's been like that. But for the past 2 years in Class 3, you get through the district playoffs. And then the last 2 years at St. Mary's that you guys run into. You won't have to worry about them this year. But, Noah, I'll ask you, I guess, the experience from playing in Class 3 in the past couple of years in the district playoffs. I'm sure it's a little bit different from, Class 1, Class 2, what have you. But, how is there a different feeling coming into the districts, I guess, this season, this time around, knowing, what kind of to expect?
No, not really. We're
No?
all just ready to play football and just see what can happen and see how far we can make it.
You guys really, it's just like, hey, we do what we can control. It's just as simple as that. That's the vibe that I've always gotten from you guys from talking about that. Bryce, let me ask you this. With all the amount of kids that are able to get in, for this team throughout the season, is there any huddle highlight or any moment from a game from a guy who's not a starter where you're kind of like, you've watched that highlight maybe more than once, you're like, you know what, that was pretty sweet what that kid got to do?
Ooh, I don't know. It's hard to choose one, but
give me a few.
All right. Anytime AJ Bosler has a good punt return, it's always fun to watch that. And then our underclassmen on kickoffs, whenever they have pancake blocks and stuff, it gets us all going whenever we watch film the next Monday.
Yeah. Speaking of Bosler, I got to ask about Isaac, too. I mean, the fact that he can kick it, the touchback numbers, you got it written down here. But I guess, Coach, how much of an advantage is that knowing that he can put the ball in the end zone? You're not giving the other team a chance to return.
Oh, it's huge. It's just huge. High school football, if you can make a team have to go 80 yards, that's a whole lot of execution that they got to perform. And, it's just a tremendous advantage. And, he's worked hard. Hopefully he can, continue to improve and, continue to do an outstanding job with that. But it's huge. There's a lot of anxiety when that ball's in the air, when it's not going in the end zone. And, we haven't had to worry about that much this year. So, as a junior, he's got an extremely powerful leg, and he just does a great job for us.
Yeah, no, it's that's a really helpful thing, and not a lot of guys around the area, have a kicker like that. So, Sam, kind of same question that I asked for Bryce. When you're looking at some of the other receivers, the guys who come in and catch some other balls, is there any kind of like moment or highlight where you're like, hey, that's pretty sweet to see him do that?
I mean, even like watching the guys at practice, like on scout team, just make crazy catches. It's super cool to watch them like be able to kind of show off their skills, and they make some crazy catches sometimes.
Yeah. One of the guys, not younger, but Tim Okenfoos on the defensive side of the ball. His numbers, whenever Coach Gegg sends me the stats every single week, it kind of baffles me. 31 tackles for loss, 11 and a half sacks on the season. So, Chase, I know you've been playing a little more defense, I guess, over, this final stretch of the season, too. Can you kind of tell when you're standing, back at safety or corner or whatever? Do you like watch Tim? Is that something that you're doing, or is it just like you're just going with the play?
I wouldn't say I watch him. That'd probably be a bad thing.
Yeah.
But on film, I know I'd pick him out sometimes and watch him because he just bursts through the line.
What makes him such a good defensive lineman? Because I'm sure, as a quarterback, you're trying to see, defensive linemen on the other teams and how they're getting into the backfield.
I'd say his speed. He definitely has more speed than most defensive linemen, and he's just strongest kid I know. So
Yeah, I mean the kid's freaking brute. What is he, like 5'11", 6 feet, 200 pounds or something like that?
No, he's about 5. He's probably 5'9".
Really?
195, 200 pounds. Most of those weights are just kind of
Well, yeah, you got to fluff
just
them
kind
up
of
a
in there to
little.
make me feel better. But Timmy's awesome. We would have loved to bring him and everybody on the the team out here. But he's had one of the most dominant defensive seasons as anybody that we've coached, and really as anybody in the area. He can play anywhere over there, and you got to figure out what you're going to do to get him blocked.
Yeah, and I mean, again, and he's running the ball well too. I know he hadn't played running back at the varsity level until this year. The numbers that you guys have, the rushing yards allowed in the first half, 4.7 per game rushing yards allowed in the first half throughout the season. Save the Seckman game where, they have Cole Rubel and they're a Class 6 team. They're a really good squad where I think you guys gave up over 300 in that one. Since then, Central ran it kind of well on you too. That's the only other one that kind of got away. But since then, it's 4.7 rushing yards in the first half per game. I guess why is it so important, or why is your rushing defense so good against the other teams? It's a very general question, but if you kind of had to break it down, Coach, what's the best way to do that?
I think, first and foremost, Coach Geck, just does an amazing job making sure that, the guys see everything they need to see throughout the week, and, game planning. And certainly Coach Roth is an amazing, a defensive line coach. And, those guys are always working hard on their slants and their twists and staying low. And it's just always been something that, whenever we attack an opponent, that's kind of what we look to first. How can we slow down their best few runs and just kind of go from there. And, then you got guys like these 4 guys here and Timmy and, certainly, Carson Tucker and Brandon Giesler. And I'm not gonna name them all because I'll forget somebody.
Yeah.
But those guys just work hard, and they take a lot of pride in it.
Yeah, well, I want you guys to talk about as many kids as you possibly can. That's a good part of coming on here. So, Noah, same thing that I asked these guys, but, who's an offensive lineman or defensive lineman that's a sophomore year or freshman? You're like, that may be the next guy up.
Probably Zach Nagger. He just works so hard in practice, and, he even makes us varsity guys, try, and he just brings it every single day and just does what he needs to do.
Yeah. When does wrestling season start?
I honestly don't know. I know it's coming up soon, but I don't know the date exactly.
I was going to say, are you already counting down the days where you got to start shaving all the facial hair?
I'm not really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I know. That's a brutal thing. I'm kind of in the same boat. I haven't shaven my beard since 2013. I just kind of trim it up too. You probably don't shave that thing too often, Coach, do you?
It gets trimmed every so often.
Yeah. Hey,
you can't. If we're going to talk about facial hair, you can't.
I forgot. You got a little thing going above the lip, don't you? All right.
Sorry, competition.
Yeah, that's right. Competition. Okay, yeah, that's
Tim Oakenfist.
There you go. Does Timmy got a little thing going on too?
Yeah.
Are you guys trying to grow out you can get the biggest mustache? All right.
Slow competition.
Yeah. You're not really making much progress over there.
It takes a while, but it's coming.
You got to get some some chia seeds or some Rogaine or something. You got to throw that on the mustache, I guess.
Sharpie or something.
Yeah.
Make it a little darker.
Little French mustache, so you can right in the thing over there. Who's any one of you answer? Who's the funniest kid on the team?
Ooh, probably the Viox twins.
Viox twins.
Yeah, that's kind of a combination.
Really?
If you ask some of our teachers, they probably would disagree with how funny they are. But I think they usually do a pretty good job keeping everybody on their toes. So
yeah,
I guess they've been competing for a long time about who can get the last word.
There's probably 2 guys that you can't shut up too much during practice
There's
either.
no shutting them up.
No. You always got to have some kids that are kind of like that too to ease up on the mood. Well, yeah, I mean, it's been a really fun season, watching you guys too, and I'm sure that there's more to come. Now, I bet you don't think, ahead to the rest of the year, but Coach, when you're watching these guys out here and you play, going back to the second game, you're down 9 in the third quarter, you come back and win that. To the Central game, you're down 9 in the fourth quarter, you come back and win that. And a lot of these other games, you're winning by double digits, 20, 30, some odd points or so. when you kind of, I don't know if you can compare this team to teams of the past already because there's still more of the mission to be accomplished, but what's kind of your summary of, what these guys have been able to bring to the table and just how special that this season has been so far?
Well, it's just been a lot of fun. I think, that's probably the best way to, describe it. And, these guys are always fun to be around. They've got a, very distinct, a personality, and then, team has kind of followed that. I think a lot of those, those two games whenever we were able to make, some of the, comebacks we did, I think it all falls into, a leadership and, them, out there on the field doing things that we have no idea, what they're doing or what they're discussing, and they're just, finding a way to find a different level.
Yeah, and one more. I know. So, Sam, I asked you during training camp, how much it kind of sucked being out for last year. And I know you were out for most of the year too, Chase. But so I guess for both of you guys, looking back on training camp, you're like, hey, finally, I'm healthy now. We get to play. But now, what you guys have been able to accomplish throughout this regular season too, is it just that much better of a feeling? I guess, knowing that you've been out here, you guys have been rolling along throughout this whole season too. I mean, how nice is it to know that you are healthy and you get to enjoy a successful senior season?
It's pretty great to just be able to do it with the guys. Like last year, they had a great season also. So it's nice to be back and be able to accomplish it with the team and really feel like I'm helping out as much as I can.
Yeah, it's pretty good being back healthy.
It's definitely good to be back. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. Hey, this has been fun. I'm glad you guys were able to come out here and talk a little bit. You guys enjoy the food too?
Oh, yeah.
It was good.
Thank you.
Who had the best meal, or what'd you guys get? I guess
Someone get
the steak.
Fiesta lime chicken.
Yeah,
Fiesta lime chicken. I think was the star of the show.
Anyone get the steak?
I got a little steak.
I was gonna say, yeah, someone always gets the steak too. Well, hey, Judd, Sam, Bryce, Noah, Chase, thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. We'll be following along throughout the rest of the year. That's for sure.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you so much, guys.
For having us.
Yep, Valley Catholic Warriors joining us on the Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable. We're back after this. Welcome back into the Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable. We're live on J98, MyMoInfo.com, streaming on Twitter and YouTube. And thanks again to Judd Nagger, the Valley Catholic Warriors team captains, Chase Fowler, Bryce Giesler, Sam Jury, Noah Elbert joining us on the roundtable. First time that we've ever had Valley on here, so I think we had a good time. Talked some facial hair, got to get that in, and glad that they could shout out some of the other guys on the team. At Valley, they have a first round bye. They are going to take on the winner of either Kennett or Potosi next Friday at Father John Dempsey Field. So Griffin Weinberg and Garrett Davenport with you. We'll break down the other matchups in the area. Again, we mentioned it at the top of the show, but if you missed that part, in Class 1 District 2, we got Grandview taking on St. Pius. Grandview will be at St. Pius, and then Crystal City is hosting Louisiana. And St. Vincent, I forgot to mention, they have the bye in Class 1 District 1. Then in Class 2 District 1, Jefferson will host a game versus John Burroughs. In Class 3 District 1, it is Central hosting Fredericktown, St. Genevieve hosting Dexter, and Kennett hosting Potosi. Class 3 District 2, we got Herculaneum hosting Bayless. Class 4 District 1, Farmington hosting Perryville, North County hosting DeSoto, Festus hosting Sykeston. Class 4 District 2, Windsor is at Gateway. Class 5 District 1, Fox is at Poplar Bluff. And then in Class 6 District 1, Seckman is hosting St. Louis University High School, and Northwest will be at Marquette. So that is the quickest rundown of all the games we have coming up this Friday. I guess we'll talk about the broadcast games, Garrett, but as far as other games that kind of look intriguing to me, I'm going back to that Jefferson-John Burroughs game because, Jefferson with the 4 seed, John Burroughs the 5 seed. Jefferson is 5-4. John Burroughs is 4-5. I think that Jefferson's in a good spot. Now, the winner of that game, they got to take on New Madrid County Central, a top team in the state in Class 2, but we're looking to this Friday, not next Friday. And with the way that Jefferson's playing, their offense, starting to find a groove, the defense still staying consistent throughout the season, this is a dangerous team. And I think that should they win, they could move on to play New Madrid County Central, and that would be an exciting game, in my opinion. But I'm curious to see how this one will end up, that's for sure. So I think that the Jefferson game, maybe another will catch my eye, but was there another one that you're looking at, Garrett?
That's a great pick. I feel like Lee Corso.
Yeah.
That's a great pick.
Yeah.
But I think some other games I'm really looking at right now over at Class 4 District 2, Windsor and Gateway, I think that could be a pretty entertaining game. Both teams sit there at 4-5. And a game we talked about a little bit throughout the week was this Potosi at Kennett game.
Yeah.
I really like this Potosi offense. Again, 3-6. I don't think it really shows the amount of talent that team actually has. So they can be competitive in that game. It's kind of depending on what type of Potosi team we see over there at Kennett. But we think that game can be a little competitive as well. So really those two games, what I've been looking at, of course, that Jefferson game, like you just said, but Windsor and Gateway, and also Potosi at Kennett.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, Potosi, they're starting to come together after they made that move of putting Zane West and JT Cross on the offensive line. Noah Walton's running the ball well. Thomas Lamming is a freshman that's breaking out. And, of course, they got Blake Coleman and Gavin Portell. I guess if there's another one that, I want to see go down, definitely Crystal City. I mean, I want to see more of Crystal City. I want to hear more about Crystal City because this is an awesome story of how they've turned around the program, and they're going to get a home playoff game. So I feel like that atmosphere, that's probably going to be awesome. They're going to be hosting Louisiana. So those are some of the other games, but on the broadcast schedule, we'll start with the Jefferson County game of the week. It will be Grandview at St. Pius, a matchup in Class 1 District 2, as the 5-seeded Eagles will be taking on the 4-seeded St. Pius Lancers. Again, Grandview, they snap a 6-game skid, so they'll take a little bit of momentum into this matchup. However, it is a St. Pius team that's 7-2. They won the I-55 outright last year. They clinched a share of the conference this season with their win on Friday and St. Vincent's loss on Friday. St. Pius is they're going to be a tough team to beat because they're running the ball well. They're a lot like Jefferson, I think, in some sorts, is that they can run it well. They get some passing help. They got the backup quarterback, and their defense has been really good throughout the year. It's going to be a tough one for Grandview too, but I think that they're taking, they're going to have a little bit, of some good vibes, I guess, to bring into this game after their win against Chaffee last Friday. So Hal Neisler is going to be on the broadcast for you there. We'll have a more extended breakdown of that game when I talk with Hal on the Fleets Equipment pregame show this upcoming Friday. The game on KREI, the Farmington Knights are going to be hosting the Perryville Pirates. So they're both currently 3-6 on the year, while Perryville, they lost their last game to St. Pius. They beat Herculaneum the week before that. And Farmington, again, they're on this 4-game slide right now. Losses to Cape Central, Poplar Bluff, Festus, and the Central Rebels. A gauntlet of a schedule that the Knights have had. And I got to mention that Farmington, they've won 11 in a row in this matchup against Perryville, including winning in the first round last year, 49-0 over the Pirates. But again, this is a different kind of Perryville team that's coming into this, Garrett, and they're frisky. That's the best way that I can describe them.
And they know about the series history between them and Farmington. They know that Farmington has had their number, so they're going to want to change that coming up this Friday. Talking to Coach Brent Roth, he knows that that's been the thing. Farmington has beaten Perryville a lot over the past couple of years, so they're going to want to change the narrative with this one. And I think these are two really similar teams. They love to run the football. They got some size here and there, but also, pretty young in some places. So I think this one's going to be a real big slugfest. I don't think it's going to be a large scoring affair, to be completely honest with you, but this one could be fun. This one could be a fun, real big running game. That is, if you're a fan of running the football and guys are battling in the trenches, this one is for you.
That's true. It could be a slow-paced kind of game. For Farmington, though, they got to have some confidence knowing that they've dominated this series, ever since since the late 80s or something, whenever they've been playing. 11 games in a row, Farmington's won. So, while they've lost 4 in a row, they're going to have the home game. And I think that Farmington's going to be feeling kind of good coming into this one, too, especially just knowing that they've played those teams that I just mentioned, Cape Central, Poplar Bluff, Festus, Central. I think that they're going to take a little bit of a deep breath this week in their preparations for this one.
Oh, yeah, they're going to be really confident heading into this one. And you can really, whenever you're playing a team where you had that type of success, just everything starts to feel good. As an athlete, you just okay, we're playing them. Everything is just going to be okay. And you've got a lot of confidence going into the game. And again, on the Perryville side of things, you want to snap that, but it's going to be hard to do with a team like Farmington that has had your number, like you said.
Yeah, so that's going to be the game on KREI. Chad Speaker will have the call for you. And then Garrett, you're going to be back in Park Hills, where you just were last week. For the J98 game of the week, it's the Central Rebels hosting the Fredericktown Black Cats. Fredericktown coming off of that 26-24 win against East Prairie. But, Central is Central. This is not, that they're going to need to be as perfect and even more perfect than perfect the Black Cats are if they're going to want to make, any sort of noise in this game. That's nothing against Fredericktown. That's just, a statement to how good that the Central Rebels are. The Rebels are great offensively. They're great defensively. I think that they're just at a different point in their program as Fredericktown is, but Fredericktown, they're going to come out. They're going to fight. They're going to give them their all.
I mean, you just hit the nail on the head right there. It's Central. I mean, they're obviously going to be the favorites in this game. So if you're Fredericktown, you just got to take the fight to them, knowing that you can beat them if you do play your absolute hardest. And you're going to have to play perfect. You're going to have to control the line of scrimmage. You're not going to have to – you can't give them the football, essentially, because that offense is just way too explosive. They're going to fight, like you said. They're going to put up their best effort. But, you really –
it's going to be hard to overcome.
To a T, you really said it, because Central is Central. It's going to be hard to stop that team.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. And, Jake Whitener said that Carter Cheney was out last week, and I don't know what his status is going to be for this week, too. He's the quarterback for that squad and an all-state punter, too. So, it's going to be a tough one for the Black Cats, but we're excited to be out there as the Fredericktown Black Cats will be in Park Hills to take on the Central Rebels on J98. Before we send you away, just an update from our volleyball match on KREI, the Class 4 District 1 Championship. Farmington has saved their season. They were down 2-0. They lost set 2, 25-23. They win the third set, 25-23. So that is going on KREI right now as we speak. So we're about done here in the next couple of minutes. Right after we get off the air, you need to turn that dial to AM 800 KREI or AM 1400 KJEF so you can listen to Chad Speaker on the call of the Class 4 District 1 Championship game. So do that next. But for right now, I'll say thank you to everyone who's listening, whether it be on your radio, online at mymoinfo.com, or on Twitter or YouTube. A big thank you to Jack Sadler, engineering back in our regional radio studios. And a thank you to Garrett Davenport, too. I'm Griffin Weinberg, wishing you folks a wonderful rest of your evenings. Stay sweet out there. You've been listening to the Coles Tractor and Equipment Football Roundtable on J98.
Finding the right Medicare plan?